At some point, you have walked into a room and felt it. Not fear, not recognition. Something stranger than both. A sensation that the moment you are living right now has already happened before. That you have stood in this exact place, heard these exact sounds, felt this exact feeling at some point in your past. But that cannot be right. You have never been here. You know that. And yet the feeling does not care. It stays for 3 seconds, maybe 5, and then it dissolves, like something trying to hold its shape and failing. That was déjà vu. And here's what makes it different from every other strange thing your brain does. It does not just feel familiar, it feels like memory, specific, certain, and real. Your brain is not saying, this seems similar. It is saying, this has happened, with complete confidence. Psychologist Alan Brown found that nearly 2/3 of people report experiencing déjà vu. It happens most often between 15 and 25, then gradually fades. Sometimes it feels so strong that people wonder if time has folded over itself. For centuries, people explained it as a past life memory, a trick of the mind, or something stranger. Even the phrase déjà vu, coined in 1876 by Émile Boirac, only means already seen. But naming the feeling never answered the real question. If you have never been somewhere before, why does it feel like you have? Your brain does not experience the world in one single stream. It runs in parallel. Different parts process what you see, what you feel, and what it all means, separately, all at once. Then they stitch it together into one seamless experience. Usually, the stitching is perfect, but déjà vu is what happens when the stitching fails. Deep inside the medial temporal lobe, two memory systems work together. The first handles recollection. This retrieves actual memories, a face, a name, a conversation, the full picture. The second handles familiarity. This is not a full memory, it is only a signal, a quiet feeling that says, I have encountered this before. These systems are supposed to work together. Recollection provides the evidence. Familiarity provides the feeling. But memory researcher Andy Ionelinas helped show that these signals can separate. Familiarity can fire without recollection following. Your brain receives the feeling of recognition, strong, clear, and certain, without any actual memory behind it. And instead of reading that signal as an error, your brain reads it as truth. It does not say something has gone wrong. It says, I remember this, because most of the time, familiarity means something really has been encountered before, but this time, it is lying. There is another layer to this. Researcher Anne Cleary at Colorado State University built virtual reality rooms with the same layout and spatial structure, but completely different decorations. Participants saw one room, waited, then entered its hidden twin. They had never seen the second room, but their brain had already processed its shape. In those moments, déjà vu spiked dramatically. Not because the room was familiar, because the structure was. The content of the memory does not have to match. The shape of it does. Sometimes a place feels familiar not because you have been there before, but because its hidden structure resembles something your brain has already stored. Some researchers believe déjà vu can also begin with a tiny processing delay. A signal arrives, gets partially processed, then arrives again a fraction of a second later. By the time the second signal reaches awareness, the first has already been quietly filed away. So the room feels familiar because to part of your brain, it genuinely is. You lived this moment once already, just below the threshold of awareness. Researchers saw the same thing in temporal lobe epilepsy. Before a seizure, some patients experience déjà vu that lasts not seconds but minutes because misfiring neurons keep triggering the familiarity signal. And when neurosurgeons stimulated the rhinal cortex of conscious patients, some immediately said the moment felt familiar. No memory, no past experience, just a current moment their brain had decided was old. That is déjà vu, not a past life, not a glitch in reality, but a moment where the brain's recognition system fires without the evidence to justify it. Your conscious mind believes it because you do not experience your brain's mechanisms. You only experience the conclusions they reach. But here is the part that should unsettle you. Déjà vu only lasts a few seconds. And yet, while it is happening, you cannot disprove it. You cannot reach into your brain and correct the signal. You simply have to wait for reality to reassert itself, and it always does. The feeling dissolves, the moment moves forward, and you are left wondering what just happened. For those few seconds, your brain constructed a false certainty, not a guess, not a suspicion, something that felt as solid as memory, and you could not tell the difference. Now consider the opposite. There is a phenomenon almost nobody talks about called jamais vu. It is the reverse of déjà vu, and in some ways, it is more disturbing. Jamais vu is when something deeply familiar, a word that you know, a face you have seen for years, even your own hand, suddenly feels strange, foreign, like it belongs to someone else. Researchers can trigger it in a laboratory. If you write an ordinary word, like door, over and over again, the word can begin to look wrong. The letters stop making sense. Same brain, same memory system. But this time, the signal fires in the opposite direction. Déjà vu tells you something is familiar when it is not. Jamais vu tells you something is foreign when it could not be more known. Two opposite errors. One uncomfortable truth. Your sense of what is familiar is not a fact, it is a reading, generated fresh by systems running quietly beneath everything you trust. And sometimes the reading is wrong. There are people who experience déjà vu continuously, not for seconds, not occasionally, but for months, years. Every conversation feels already had. Every room feels already entered. Every face feels already known. These are people with a form of temporal lobe dysfunction. And what they describe is not mystical. It is deeply disorienting. One patient, documented in 2016, had been living inside continuous déjà vu for years. He had stopped watching television because every program felt like a repeat. He had stopped reading the news because every story felt like something he had already read. Even a routine doctor's appointment felt less like medical care and more like a memory he had already lived. He was not living in the present. He was living in an endless echo of a present that had never actually existed. His brain's familiarity system had simply never switched off. That is what déjà vu is when it never ends. And that is what it briefly is for all of us, for 3 to 5 seconds at a time. This is why déjà vu matters. Not because it proves a past life, not because reality glitched, but because it shows something more ordinary and more unsettling. Your brain can feel certain before it has proof. For a few seconds, there is no real memory, no past event, no evidence, only a signal. And somehow, that signal is enough to make the present feel old, enough to make a new moment feel already lived. So the next time déjà vu happens, you will probably do what everyone does. You will pause, look around, wait for the feeling to disappear, and then quietly, something inside your brain will say, "You have been here before," and for just a moment, you will believe it.